Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. A couple weeks ago, I talked about being a mom, and I thought, over this last week, I've been thinking about everything that I've done as a mom. When we have little ones, we imagine their world and what we want for them, health and happiness and all that wonderful stuff. They grow up, go to school, get a job, be independent, and so on and so forth. But never do you imagine raising your children and then dealing with mental illness or substance abuse disorder or any of that stuff. And I look back over the last many years and I look at what I've done, what I've never imagined to do in my life. So I thought I started writing a few things down and what I've done that I would never imagine I would ever do. And I thought I would share it with you. I have a list, so I'm going to go through it quickly, maybe touch base a little bit on it. But, one of the things that came to mind was buying weed for my son. I never thought I would see the day that I would actually purchase marijuana for my own kid. And I say that because before marijuana became legal here in Canada, there was a lot of debate as to whether it should be legal. And I was sitting on the fence because I saw how Ben's life changed once he started to smoke weed. And that was like when he was 13, 14 years old. And I just thought that would be the craziest thing. But skipping ahead many years and Ben's hospitalization, it was suggested that maybe he could replace all those opioids and hard drugs by just smoking weed. And at that point, I just wanted to keep my son alive, so I was willing to do anything to keep him alive. So I ended up buying him pot. We went to some dispensary, and we would scale it. I know how to scale. I know how to grind and roll, and I know some of the lingo. I never thought that I would know any of this stuff. It just seemed unimaginable. And watching my son smoke, it's something you just don't picture yourself doing with your child. Following sketchy people that look like they are ready to hurt anybody that gets in their way. I think I've told this story. I couldn't find Ben, and I knew where he was about, and he wasn't there. And I see these two sketchy guys going behind the dumpsters where Ben said he was going to be, and following them, and they're using. And I say, hey, and I say, I'm looking for my son. That's another thing I could never imagine I would ever do. There was a time when Ben owed a dealer a couple $100, and I never gave Ben money during all this because I didn't want to live with any regret that I had given him money and he doesn't make it. But he was in a state where he was seriously concerned that this person was going to do something. I mean, it's a whole nother world, the drug world. So you could imagine, you've seen movies. So as a mom, I'm thinking I want to protect him. And he did have a little bit of money in a bank account that he was aware of. And I said, okay, I will give you the $200, but I want to see you give him the money, because the last thing I would ever do is give him, at this point in his life, $200 cash, because you don't know what he's going to do. So he said, well, let me get in touch with him. So he gets in touch with the dealer and arranged for us to deliver it to him so that I could see the money being exchanged, that he pays off his debt. Whoever thought I never thought I would be doing that. So we go and we meet this guy, and I stay in the car. Ben gets out. I watch. I give Ben the money, gives it to the dealer. I could hear them talking. And all I could say is it took everything in me not to get out of the car and give this dealer a few choice words like, what the F are you doing selling to my son? I didn't do that. I sat there. I had the window down so I could hear what they're talking about. And the thing that bothered me the most is when we left, he said, oh, nice to meet you, ma'am. and I just put my hand up and I didn't say a word because I wanted to go out and strangle him, but I didn't. So that was another thing, going to pay off a dealer. I've learned I know how to make crack, because this is things that Ben would share with me. Because I'd question, why are you doing crack? And, it's cheaper than Coke. And to hear myself say, well, why wouldn't you do the Coke? Why would you make the crack? And it's conversations like that I never imagined I would have with my son. Carrying my naloxone with me in case my son overdosed. Because of all the hospital stays, I've gotten to know the hospital system. And actually, he had been going to the hospital so many times, and I've spoken of this in past videos, to the point where I've gotten to know a lot of the doctors, a lot of the nurses. I know their shift change. I know, how it works. I know you're going to have to wait hours, so don't bother rushing. I never imagined I would know the hospital system and getting to know a lot of doctors and nurses because of my son being brought to the emergency. I never imagined doing these YouTube videos, sharing, or as some people call it, airing my dirty laundry and being candid about what's going on in our world. Like, I know that there's a lot of people that are going through the same thing, and they may not even talk to their closest friend about it. It was Ben's idea to start this, and here we are. I'm sharing things that I've gone through over the years that was unimaginable, 22 years ago when I had my baby boy. Fearing for my son. Is he alive? Sleepless nights, not knowing whether he was alive, whether he was in a ditch, whether he had overdosed, whether it was just his phone died because of dead battery. It's a horrible thing. My reaction to it when he told me that he was doing heroin, I mentioned this in a previous video, and not reacting. But that also leads me to all the classes I've gone to. And if it wasn't for the classes, I probably might have reacted a little bit differently when I heard he had thought he was doing heroin. And it was actually fentanyl and morphine. I've taken so many classes. I've taken addiction workshop. I have my mental health first aid. I've taken a class on the effects of marijuana with mental illness, a 12-week course on personality disorder, mindfulness course. Actually, I'm doing that one now, a 4-week course. I never thought I'd be educating myself in that aspect. Calling the police on my own son. This is when Ben was very suicidal and he wanted to kill himself. I had to call the police. That was, at the time, one of the hardest things I had to do. Since then, I've done harder things. I guess it prepared me for future situations. The last thing you want to do is call the police on your own son. Which, also going into the court system. As my son has been arrested in the past, thankfully he hasn't been in a couple of years now, which is great. And learning what diversion means in the courts. His cases were diverted to the mental health part of the court. And that was a really great thing because that's when we started to actually get help for Ben. Before that, it wasn't from lack of trying. So, there's so many things that I have done in my life that I couldn't even imagine, Let's see, what else? Detoxing. Never thought I would detox my son. And also, talking about detox, learning the different drugs out there and the effects of these drugs and how the detoxes for these drugs are different. I know that now. It is not something I would ever imagine knowing, but this was a big part of my life. And detoxing, and I've learned that meth is one of the worst drugs that someone can be addicted to. This is from my personal experience seeing my son. Meth, the psychosis that goes along with meth is crazy. The detox for meth is even worse. It's horrible, horrible, horrible. It's like I would look into Ben's eyes, and Ben wasn't there. It was the addiction. It was the devil. You feed that addiction, and that devil just grows and grows. It is an ugly thing. Oof. Another thing I could never imagine is Ben getting kicked out of a place he was living, and not having anywhere to go, and me saying he can't come live with me. That is the worst thing. And driving your son to a shelter, and knowing, you are in the comfort of your own home and your child is in a shelter. Learning what goes on in shelters. I know today Ben said that he never wants to go back, which is a great thing. And Ben, by the way, is doing fantastic right now. And he is looking forward to future. And he played baseball again. I'm just giving you tidbits. He is doing great. I have been asked by a number of people if Ben will be doing a video. I'm hoping one day he will. I will not pressure him, but he knows that I update you guys, and today's a really good day. What else has been unimaginable? Support groups that I'm on. I have learned what other people have gone through. It makes my life look like a walk in the park, and at times. I am grateful that Ben is alive. Like I said, another thing I couldn't imagine is my son flatlining and dying numerous times. I can't even count on my fingers how many times. I'm so blessed that he's still here. There are many on support groups that have lost loved ones. There are grandparents raising their grandbabies. There are people going to visit their loved one in jail, that have been attacked by their loved one that's abusing substances. And it's a scary thing. I'm sure there's more. I've tried to be quick and go through the list quickly. I just wanted to give you a snapshot of what it's like to be a mom of someone who has mental illness and substance abuse disorder. I send my love to all parents out there dealing with mental illness or substance abuse or any kind of special needs. It's tough. We'll do anything we can to keep our children alive and keep them safe. And wow, I'm kind of exhausted going through that list. But I'm happy to say Ben is alive. Ben sees a future. Ben has a spirit to live. Because of Ben, I am here sharing all this information to remove that awful stigma when it comes to addiction and mental illness. And I hope we can get the word out so that people aren't ashamed to talk about it. My love to you all. Continue the spirit to live. Have a great week. Thanks for watching.